Well, to start off with, the show's called Poulaphouca, which is a funny, well, it's an Irish name for dam, which causes the lake that I live on. It caused the lake, and there used to be a small town there that was covered in water. So I like the lake is very mysterious for me in that sense, in that just knowing that there was this ancient town still maybe there, and architectural traces of it do come up when the water gets a little low. So the landscape has always been a part of the work, but it seems like now that I'm in Ireland, I'm in the country, I'm by a lake, it seems like just so much more present. So hence the name. When I speak, I always forget certain things. So I made some notes, so I remember what I made some notes of notes that I needed to say. So I'm sorry, but I'll read through this. Although very influenced by the surrounding landscape, the work is more about how one sees and processes the landscape. And through the landscape, there's connections to through different kind of space, and space in terms of landscape, in terms of the sky, the sea. That's been something that I've really focused on, especially in these. There's a mapping that goes on underneath the paintings that then I work over. So they start off with a kind of mapping of the space. I think I'm drawn to this in different aspects of the landscape, how infinity kind of reveals itself in many surprising ways, not only in the sky, but in the water, looking out, mountains, whatever, clumps of trees. So yeah, so if there's some hoping that's maybe captured a sense of infinity. And I also like the fact, and I work, my studio has these big doors that open up, so it's not like I'm working outside, but it kind of feels like I am. I go back and forth, and I'm looking at the work from a distance, going near, and I'm fascinated by how there's an image that you can capture from a distance, and then you get close to something, and then it starts to break down into other things, which is what naturally works when you're hiking or when you're out. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or.
So order and chaos, the dance between order and chaos. So you have these lines of infinity, and then you have the sort of languid, exquisite kind of traversing across the page that is non-linear. Mm-hmm. And then you still yourself in the moment to moment between the dance between order and chaos. So.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, it's interesting, but I'm fascinated by that idea. But what's fascinating is that there actually chaos doesn't actually exist in many senses. There is an order, even though it's seemingly chaotic. There are patterns, and I find even when I don't know what I'm doing, which is a lot of the time, it's certain things start, I'm surprised by things are, I mean, they're very kind of organic, they're instinctual, but things, surprising things reveal themselves when it, because sometimes you say, oh, well, I want this to be very, chaotic, say. But then when it actually becomes close to being chaotic, it's kind of scary a little bit, or it really, and I love that kind of back and forth going.
Sam, how do you create the pieces? What's your process?
Well, they all are different, but just generally, when the paper's blank or the canvas, I start off mapping it for myself. I just start kind of moving, and by that I mean I start putting lines down, and the lines are deceptively straight. They're not that straight. I mean, I'm using sticks of wood to draw lines instead of having like a long straight edge or so, you know. So so I just start kind of moving in them, and so once I have a sense of that, and I love to look at ancient maps because I love how conceptions of the world were started with that kind of imagination of what is in the unknown and how you map it and drawing lines and, you know, to move around in. So there's a sense of that in it. And then I start with colors. They just start off, I don't know where they start. I just start off with like like what ifs, like, oh, what if this was this color, and what if it was that color? What if it's this combination? What if it's, and they change a lot. They really, you know, I think I'm going this way, and then, you know, 2 weeks later, it's just a whole different thing. So they do, yeah. Anyway. Yes.
I
Sorry.
missed the beginning, and I wondered if you name.
Poulaphouca. Yeah, you know, it's an Irish name, and I think it means the witch's hole. I know that sounds vulgar, but it's the witch's hole, but like the witch's cave, you know, like where the witch is, like the hole where the witch lives. It's just a funny name, but it's also the name of the dam. There's a dam where I live, and it created the lake that I actually live on. So it's kind of, you know, it's that. I also like it. I came across it again because I heard that James Joyce would collect Irish words for, I'm sure he knew, well, I don't know, but I'm sure he knew Irish, you know, obviously. But he would collect them for their poeticness, the way they sounded. And Poulaphouca was a name that he collected, so I like that too, that connection, you know. Yeah, it's just a weird sounding name.
There appears to be an underlying geometry that you start with, and it seems to emanate from the points on the canvas, either in the corners or the sides.
Yeah.
And then it looks like you, out of that order, start becoming more chaotic with the paint that's on top of that.
Yeah.
And I guess the question I have is, did you ever make a mistake? And how did you know you made a mistake?
Oh my God, they're like, these are records of mistakes, you know. These are inventories of mistakes, you know. Yeah, no, it's, you know what I'm fascinated with is, in terms of like, say, space or whatever, is that the idea that it's not constant or homogeneous, that even, you know, I don't know that much about quantum physics, or, you know, I don't pretend that, but I'm fascinated with knowing about gravity in certain spaces a lot denser than other spaces, and I sort of play around with that, where the space, a lot of the line work is to make, so if you go, like, say, walking from here to there, say there, space is different. It's more, so you're going to move differently. It's going to affect you differently. So this is where, like, so I like where it, like, condenses. And so, yeah, so I was experimenting with that idea where the space is different. Yes?
So some of your previous work that I was familiar with, it almost seems like your brush stroke, your work was like infinite and constant movement.
Yeah.
And so you've got a tremendous change now between that, seeing that artist hand's movement throughout what almost looks like a continuous movement, to now you have really compartmentalized in a very, you know, very specific way. Like you really show the definition. So I'm interested in how you made that change, or what your decision was to change.
It's really weird because I've never, I mean, I've never actually, like for myself, I've never really been interested in, like, say, geometric painting, like hard edge painting. It's never. I love it. You know, Ellsworth Kelly. I love it. I love all these artists, but it's never been something that resonated with me. I never. And here I'm finding that I'm looking at them. I'm going, God, that's a straight line. You know, that's a shape. You know, that's a. You know how it happened is I was doing an exhibition. And there was a painting of the ones you're talking about. There was a very loose, like, brushwork. And I was working on it. I worked on it for, I don't know, a long time. And one day I said, okay, you know, the painting's finished. It's finished. The next day I came to see the painting and I said, well, it's unfinished. It's not finished. I liked all the movement in the painting, but I didn't like the base color that happened, what became of the base color. And I said, either I just trash the painting and start again, or I change the base color. And then I said, but changing the base color would mean going into all the negative space and literally changing the base color. And I said, I'm gonna try doing that. So I changed the base color. I was painting around all the lines, which took me another few weeks. But that started something else. It started an investigation where before I was putting stuff on, and then this other way, I was addressing the negative space. So now I feel like it's almost like I'm painting like emptiness or something. Like it's this, like, it's not the tree. Sorry, I mean, Jennifer might be here. I don't mean anything by it. Like, it's not the tree. It's what's between the branches and the leaf. It's that. So then that's how I started mapping it out, and hence the straight line. So it provides like maybe a support for the negative space, which is what's in my mind now. I mean, anyway, that piece was like very.
Object.
Huh?
You're no longer painting the object. You're painting in between.
In a sense, yeah, but like that's become the object. I don't know. It's yeah. So that's kind of how that happened.
Sam, thank you so much.
No, well, thank you.
you.
Thank you.